हन्तात्मज्ञस्य धीरस्य खेलतो भोगलीलया न हि संसारवाहिकैः मूढैः सह समानता. Here the first Siddhantam is Brahmajnani has no need for sense indulgence. And supposing he is a Brahmajnani, and if he goes through some pleasures, that should be accepted as prarabdha, considering that he is a jnani. But one doesn't know. Sense indulgence can be due to avidya or due to prarabdha. Prarabdha to the exclusion of avidya. In the case of a jnani, a person may have sense indulgence, may go through some comforts, may go through some pleasures as a result of prarabdha, not dictated by any avidya or a desire. This is the Siddhantam. And then having seen this to be the Siddhantam, then you read the verse. What does the verse say? Hanta, look. Atmajnasya. Whenever we see a verse, a phrase or a word, anything, we have to keep in view the Vedanta Siddhantam. A person who knows the Vedanta Siddhantam alone can go into Purana, so that he looks at the Puranas also in the light of Vedanta Siddhantam. The temples, etc., people may run down, but according to Vedanta Siddhantam, worshipping divinity is very much valid. If you say God is within, why worship outside? I say, if God is within, then go within, then why are you living externally? What is this all the nonsense? Vedanta Siddhantam is God is within and the entire without is non-separate from the within. The within pervades the entire without. Because the within pervades the entire without, and the entire without is non-separate from the within, the within is understood, the without is looked upon, is worshipped. You can worship him without also. Temples are all connected to Vedanta Siddhantam, they are beautiful. Unconnected to Vedanta Siddhantam, if a person doesn't connect connect the temples to Vedanta Siddhantam, it becomes Kamya Karma, that is also okay. If Anandam is within, then why are you doing a job, ji? If there is freedom within, then why are you doing a job, and why food? Then why look for anything external? If you say for survival, yes, that means though Bhagavan is within, you need something. Even though the truth is within, but yet you need something for survival. Similarly, though the truth is within, one needs to do something for mental purity. Mental purity is also a need. Mental peace is a need. Coping with the without is the need. I can cope with the without, keeping in view the within as the pervader of the entire without. Therefore, in view of the Vedanta Siddhantam, the entire Vedic culture is absolutely valid, and those who talk against it and this and that, why do you have temples, etc. I say, if you don't need temples, then why do you have a job? So in my thinking, sir, a lot of things that go on in this world are ati prasanga. It is just really groping in the dark, are almost shooting into one's own feet. You shoot into your own foot, you see. You are going against your own interests. It's almost like going against sanity. The within is something, you are talking about God is within, as if really you know it. I say, what about the without? What is the explanation for the without? The without also is non-separate from the within. Do you think that God is something, the without is parallel to the within? And therefore, the temples are valid, worship is valid, japa is valid, all the rituals as kamya karma is valid. There is nothing that is not valid except running down it. That's not valid. Running down Vedic culture is not valid. Everything else is. Therefore, keep in view the Vedic Siddhantam. What is the Vedanta Siddhantam? Understanding the truth doesn't make you, it liberates you from the desires for this or that. And if you still have some comforts, supposing you see yourself going through some comforts or some discomforts, despite knowledge, can be taken as prarabdha, provided he is a jnani. Or it could be due to avidya also. Hanta. Look, atmajnasya, a person who is atmajna, a person who knows the self, himself, his existence. Atma means one's own existence. I cannot give a better meaning than this for the word Atma. Atma means not something that is inside. The one's existence, inside what? One's existence is the subject, that is what is called the self. One's existence, it's not one of the details, please. Existence is not one of the details. To be is not one of the details. A tree is one of the details. All the given details are a part of creation. But the one who sees the creation is not one of the details. The experiencer of all the details is not one of the details. Then what is it? He is common to all the details. He is the common source of all the details. He is the common truth of all the details. He is the common perceiver. He is the common knower. He is the common witness. He is the common source. He is the common truth. That word common cannot be disassociated from one's existence. One's existence is a common perceiver. Common seer, common is the same one. The same me sees, hears, tastes, touches, smells. I am the common perceiver, common remember of all, common thinker of all, common witness of all, common source of all, common truth of all. And as the truth of all, even the common and the particular relationship goes. Is this not Vedanta Prakriya? This is Vedanta Prakriya ji. everybody is aware of. Why doesn't one wonder at the fact that he is the common perceiver? He is the common perceiver, common witness, common experiencer of life and death. That is called samanya, common. And the one who is the common perceiver, common thinker, common remember, common experiencer is also the common source. And the common source is the common truth. And that common is the non-dual. And therefore common and particular relationship also goes. That is a part of prakriya. Samanya Vishesha Prakriya. It is a part of teaching. And therefore Atmajnasya Dhirasya, how does he spend? He may kelataha. He is cheerful. I don't say he is playful, he is cheerful, that is kelata. He is not sporting all the time. These many people try to do the dhong. You understand? No? Dhong they do. All the time playing. Why? Shruti says she is all the time playing. Idiotic. Say he is happy. All plays are for peaceful. He is peaceful. I don't want even to say that he is cheerful. He is peaceful. Dhirasya khelataha. Bhoga leela. He may go through the leela of bhoga. What is bhoga leela? He enjoys it with the knowledge that it is mithya. You enjoy the bhoga with the knowledge that it is mithya. That is called bhoga leela. Karma leela. You do an action with the knowledge that it is mithya. Karma is a leela for him, bhoga is a leela for him. And when he is walking and talking, that is also leela. Leela means knowledge that it is mithya. Ram leela. So whatever he was doing, his whole life, he was living his life with the knowledge that it is mithya. Krishna was doing everything with the knowledge that it was mithya. Leela means, please don't translate it as a sport. Leela means, I am doing it with the knowledge that it is mithya. If I happen to do through prarabdha, not that I decide to do, not that I decide to enjoy. If some prarabdha, if a person is a jnani and some pleasure comes, and if he is processed through some pleasure, then it is only prarabdham. With the knowledge, he does it with the knowledge. He eats with the knowledge. He goes with the knowledge. He drinks with the knowledge that it is mithya. That is what is called bhoga leela. Bhoga leelaya. Such a person, in the case of a layman, there is only bhoga, not a bhoga leela. In the case of a jnani, bhoga is a leela. In the case of a layman, it is a bhoga, not a leela, it is a sansara. That's why here he says, nahi, but not. Sansara vahikaihi, with the sansaris, those who carry the burden of sansara. It's called a sansara vahikaha. Sansara, the carriers, those who carry the burden of sansara, the lay, the ignorant. Mudhaihi, they are confused. Saha samanata is not the same. Bhoga leela is not the same as bhoga. In ignorance, man does bhoga. In understanding, even if he goes through a pleasure, it is a bhoga. Considering that he has knowledge. It is a Bhoga Leela. Now one doesn't have to think, become a dong, I am doing a Bhoga Leela. If he decides it is a Bhoga, if a person decides for Bhoga himself, if it is thrust on him, it is Bhoga Leela, if he is a Jnani. Otherwise it is a Bhoga. And therefore, even though this is Siddhantam, but we are not avataras, we are just jivas. Jivas trying to understand what the Shruti says. And therefore, as jivas, most of the time our prarabdha is dukkha prarabdha. There is hardly any sukha prarabdha. Therefore, when dukkha prarabdha comes, take it as leela. Bas. It is not Bhoga Leela, it is Dukkha Leela. Rama had all Dukkha Leela. Krishna had all Bhoga Leela. Yes. If a person goes through Dukkham, most of the times we get our prarabdham in the form of problems, Dukkham. Some discomfort, something. Take it, say it is Mithya. Even when my mind gets affected, let us say, mentally I am affected, in thinking I am affected, but still it doesn't affect the nature of the self. ये बात को आप लोगों को समझाना चाहता हूँ. Thought is always affected, जी. Perception is always there. There is no such a thing called non-perception. वो तो कभी नहीं होगा. That's not the Siddhantam, that's not possible. Non-perception is not possible. But you come to understand what you perceive. You come to understand what you perceive yourself to be. Not that you don't perceive. There is no non-perception. There is right understanding of perception. ये बात को जो समझ गया वो वेदांत समझ गया. There is no non-perception of the world, there is no non-perception of embodiment, there is no non-perception of sukha, there is no non-perception of dukkha. But what is perceived can be understood as mithya. Therefore here the first verse says, don't equate Bhoga Leela with Bhoga. Don't compare a jnani who looks a bhokta with an ajnani who is also a bhokta. Both perceive sukham and dukkham. Perception is never suspended. Perception is never negated. Perception is disproved, understood as mithya. You continue to perceive, you perceive the moon running. You perceive the moon running. But actually it is the cloud that runs. Having understood, so you continue to perceive the moon running, but know that it is not running. It's a bhranti. In this manner, even when the mind is affected, perception is affected, the nature is not affected. Even when the wave, even after knowledge, supposing it feels affected by dukkham. That feeling that I am affected, the feeling of having been affected doesn't affect its nature of being water. This is the thing, ji. Therefore, the promise that the Shruti makes has to be understood. It's not at the thought level. You are affected in your thinking is wrong, because thinking is always you perceive. You perceive the sukham, you perceive the dukkham. But if you understand the truth, then you also disprove that perception. The perception is disproved, corrected, not non-perception. What is perception? It is perceived, the perception is understood. It's like dreaming at the same time knowing that it is a dream. But you can say the dream is dreamt in the waking, because the Vichara Shakti is there only in the waking state. Within the waking state, you can understand the waking is dreamt, the dream is dreamt, and even the negation of both as another detail is also dreamt. Even the sleep as a negation of the waking and the dream is negated. Life is dreamt, death also is dreamt. One thinks of death in terms of the absence of things. The waking state and the life is, one thinks of life as the presence of things. One thinks of death as absence of things. But it is neither, truth is neither presence of things nor absence of things. It is the presence of itself, not followed by the absence. Life is presence of things followed by the absence, means unmanifest, let us say. That is teaching, but for man thinks it is absence. Presence of things followed presence of things. Man looks at life as the presence of things and looks at death as the absence of things. But one's existence is neither presence of things nor absence of things. It is presence of one's own existence. ये बात को समझना थोड़ा सा, you have to be extra reflective. The wave is present, there is presence of wave, there is absence of wave, but water is neither presence of wave nor absence of wave. You can't define water as presence of wave. You can't define water as absence of wave. It is presence of water. It has its own identity. Like silence is not absence of sound. And even though you hear it, sir, again and again, that silence is not just absence of sound. Peace is not absence of disturbance. It has its own identity. But what comes to the mind is, it is absence of. That is called avidya, to think of peace in terms of absence of disturbance, and to think of disturbance as the negation of peace, absence of peace. I think of peace as absence of disturbance, and I think of disturbance as absence of peace. I don't see the disturbance as a disturbance. I see the peace as the negation of, I don't see the peace as having its own identity. I see the silence, I think of silence as absence of sound, and I think of sound also as negation of silence. I look at them as dvandvas, pairs of opposites, one negates the other, mutually negative. Silence and sound are mutually negative, they are mutual enemies, prativadis. But actually between silence and sound there is no, the mutual negation. One is the satyam, the other is mithya. Between peace and disturbance there is satya, mithya. Between Atma and Anatma there is Satya Mithya Bhava. Similarly, between the water and the wave there is Satya Mithya Bhava, because the wave doesn't replace water, nor water replaces the wave. Truth doesn't displace anything nor replaces anything, nor is it replaced. Neither truth replaces anything because there is nothing else, nor it is replaced by anything because there is nothing else. Therefore, we always think of life in terms of the presence of things, death in terms of the absence of things. This is called ajnanam. Life is presence of one's existence. Death also is presence of one's existence, because the presence of things is presence of the experiencer. The absence of things also is the presence of the experiencer of the absence of things. The experiencer is not replaced. A thought cannot replace the thinker. Okay, thus understand the great existence of yourself. Yat padam prepsavo dinaham Shakradhyaha sarvadevataham Aho tatra sthito yogi Na harsham upagacchati. Yat padam, जिस पद को, जिस स्टेटस को, यत पदम प्रेप्सवः इच्छवः. Prepsavaha means praptum ichchavaha. Praptum ichchavaha means desirous of attaining which abode. Even devatas really want to be full. Every living being wants to reach the destination of being full. Every living being wants to reach the destination of being happy. Every human being wants to reach the destination of being peaceful. And the devatas are no exception, because devata also is a jiva, please. He is a devata kind of jiva. Any embodied individual is a jiva. Even devatas are in ignorance. See? That's why in Kenopanishad, Parameshwara himself comes and teaches the devatas. But Swamiji, do the devatas also take a long time? Of course they take long time, and they are also dropouts, please understand. Devatas also. You see, understanding one's existence implies the same confusion, whether it is humans or animals or devatas. To look at the objectified things is easier. To imagine is easy. To perceive is easy. To objectify is easy. But to discern is difficult. Therefore, yatpadam prepsavaha dina. The devatas become very helpless. जिस पद को प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं, the devatas who are dinas means helplessly. Shakradhyaha, like the devatas like the Indra, etc. Sarva devata, all devatas like Indra, etc. helplessly want to reach which destination? They feel helpless and they want to reach an abode where they feel full and they are free from dinatvam. Helplessness is a feature of every jiva. Every jiva is helpless. Only truth is not helpless. If you say God is not helpless, if God also, if you look at him as embodied something, he is also helpless. Because embodiment makes the truth also helpless. Helplessness is a part of embodiment. Embodiment means a sense of limitation. A sense of limitation Means sense of helplessness, Ji. What else is helplessness? Limitation is helplessness. I can't really, I look at my limitation as my attribute, my adjective, my property. I don't look at it as Leela or Mithya. I look at my limitation as my reality. I look at my pain as my reality. I look at my sorrow as my reality. And that makes me feel helpless. I am humbled by my view of myself. My view of myself humbles me. And I can't jump out of my view. I can't really. If I don't like my hair, I can remove it. If I don't like a given thing, I can throw it away. But I can't throw away a view. That is helplessness. That's why all devatas are dinas, including Indra, etc. Therefore, a status within this graded creation, no status is free from helplessness. A beggar is helpless. A rich man is helpless. Helplessness should not be interpreted. There are topical jhalaks of helplessness. There is a topical help. If you don't have money, you are helpless. That is called topical helpless. If you are sick and you don't get medicines, you feel helpless. If you are sick, you are helpless. Physical sickness. Physically, I am helpless. Mentally, I am helpless. Intellectually, I am helpless. Financially, I am helpless. These are all called topical helplessness. But in terms of my existence, I am helpless. Because I can't jump out of the limitations. I can't jump out of my physical status. I can't jump out of my mental status, my intellectual status, because all of them are limitations on me, constrictions on me. And therefore, the spiritual helplessness is a sense of limitation of one's being. The sense of limitation of one's being. Physically I am old, I feel helpless. Physically I am sick, I feel helpless. Short of money, I feel helpless. This is all nothing but temporal, topical, empirical helplessness. And all our charities are connected to that kind of helplessness. Please understand. When he is financially helpless, physically helpless, mentally helpless, intellectually helpless, charities go to them. The idea of charity is connected to topical helplessness. But there are no charities to help a person out of his spiritual helplessness. That's not possible. Spiritual helplessness, there are no charities connected to spiritual helplessness. Why? Because it's the sense of limitation of one's being, sense of non-eternity. That is, that helplessness due to sense of negation of existence, sense of non-eternity of one's being, a sense of limitation of one's being, a sense of insecurity of one's being is what is called spiritual helplessness. Are there charities for it? Therefore, all charities are connected to only empirical helplessness. Therefore, even devatas feel helpless. That's why in every satsang I say helplessness is a part of life. Helplessness is a choiceless part of any life anywhere, any embodiment. And where there is helplessness, there is devotion. Devotion is the result of a sense of helplessness. Prayer is the result of the felt helplessness. When you are helpless, you cry out for help. You cry for help from the humans, and if there is nobody to hear, you cry for help, Bhagavan. Oh God, help me is a prayer. That is a natural result of, a choiceless result of the sense of helplessness. Thus connect prayer to a sense of helplessness. And therefore it is valid, ji. Shakradhyaha sarvadevataha aho tattva. A jnani reaches the destination. Aho, indeed, what a wonder. Tatra sthitaha. Yogi, tatra sthitaha. He is standing in that state. He has reached that status, that padam, that destination. Yogi, a jnani. Na harsham upagacchati, but he is not elated. Elation comes only apraptasya prapti. It's a great point. When you achieve what is not yet achieved, a new thing you achieve, there is elation. The old thing you lose, there is a depression. But the truth is not something achieving something new. It is understanding the same existence of yours. Same old existence. The anadi self. Our existence is not something new. Nor is it something 1 year old, 2 years old. It is eternal. It is ever present. And therefore, a yogi, even though he has reached his destination, he doesn't feel elated. He is peaceful, he is serene. When you get more money, you get elated. You get one more house, you get elated. Apraptasya praptihi creates elation. Praptasya loss, hanihi, creates depression. Whereas Atma is nitya praptam, not praptam for a little while. I can achieve apraptasya prapti creates elation, and what is praptam, and it just goes away as loss, and that makes me depressed. So we know what is a sense of gain and what is a sense of loss. But about the truth, there is no sense of gain or loss. It is a sense of clarity, understanding. These topical thoughts don't apply to Vedanta ji. These empirical thoughts. Oh, when you know the truth, you are elated. Aisa kuch nahi hai. Like in the deep sleep state, how much do you get elated, ji? There is no thought of elation. A thought of elation resolves. A thought of depression resolves. Freedom from thought doesn't elate you, because elation itself is a thought. Excitement is a thought. To be is not a thought. To be is serenity, and therefore Devatas may get elated due to their new gain. They may also get depressed due to their losses. When they win a victory, they are elated. When they lose to the Rakshasas, they are depressed. But a yogi is neither elated nor depressed. A jnani is neither elated nor depressed. But a jnani is ever peaceful. You can say he is ever cheerful, meaning he is peaceful. He has no problem about which he needs to complain to anybody. He doesn't put his problems before Bhagavan. He may have some topical problems, but not the fundamental problem. Fundamental problem is solved. And therefore, this is the verse, the next verse, Ji. Tajñasya punya papabhyam sparsho hyantar na jayate nahyakashasya dhumena दृश्यमानापि संगति. तज्ञस्य, तज्ञ तत् उसको जानने वाला को, तज्ञस्य आत्मज्ञस्य जो आत्मज्ञ है उनके लिए. आत्मा इज द ट्रूथ. आत्मज्ञ मीन्स आत्मा को जानने वाला, लाइक ब्रह्मज्ञ, आत्मज्ञ, सर्वज्ञ, घटज्ञ, पटज्ञ, लाइक दिस. तज्ञस्य पुण्य पापाभ्याम, विथ पुण्य एंड पापा, स्पर्श अंतः न जायते, इट्स नॉट टच्ड बाय. द ट्रूथ इज नॉट टच्ड बाय, द ट्रूथ इज नॉट टच्ड बाय द पुण्य एंड पापा. Because the truth is not touched by the punya and papa, and the one who knows it also is not touched by the punya and papa. Even if he thinks I am touched, that thought that I am touched doesn't touch the truth. Ji. It's amazing. This is what I love to repeat again and again. Even the thought that I am affected does not affect the truth. You can have a thought that, oh, I am affected. That thought that I am affected does not affect the nature. If Krishna thinks that I am not affected is not the thought. What is not affected is not the thought, please. What is not affected is the nature of the truth. Similarly, a person who knows the truth, his nature, is not affected. When he knows it, then his nature is not affected, and he is none other than his nature anyway. The one who thought I am a form, now he discovers I am not the form. I am the nature, I am my nature, I am a conscious being, the formless being. Like the wave thinking, I thought I was a growing form and diminishing form and dying form, or a born form, but I am the water. As the water, I am the entire ocean. In this manner, when the wave thinks, it also understands that waterness is not affected. Even if it thinks I am affected, its nature is not affected. Therefore, thinking may be affected, the nature is not affected. The affected thinking does not affect the nature. The affected thinking does not affect the nature. Tajñasya punya papabhyam. Punya and papa do not affect the nature of the self. Sparshaha. Sparshaha means even a touch. Antaha, within it. Na jayate is not born. Just as, now he gives a very beautiful analogy. Nahi akashasya, akashka, dhumena, by the smoke. There is some firewood burning and then it gives out a smoke. And the smoke is spreading in the space, but it doesn't touch the space. In fact, the creation cannot affect it cannot touch the source. Like the air is accommodated in the space, fire is accommodated in the space, water and the earth are accommodated in the space. Because they cannot be accommodated outside the space, therefore they are made of space. The topical karanam, the topical material for the four elements is the space. And like the pot cannot affect the clay. Pot may be very ugly, but it can't make the clay ugly. The creation, understand, creation means, you have to understand, that is implying no change in the source. That is called a creation. Creation is different from modification. Universe is a creation in God, not a modification. Therefore, just as pot doesn't affect the clay, wave doesn't affect water, in the same manner, the smoke screen, the smoke, it jets out, the smoke jets out from the firewood, from the fire. That smoke and spreads all over the space, but it doesn't touch the space. It can't really eclipse the space, because wherever the smoke travels, it is accommodated in the space. Therefore, the space is evident in and through the smoke. The space is evident in and through the air and fire and water, earth. How can the air cover the space, eclipse the space? How can the fire cover the space? How can the clouds cover the space? Because their very existence is accommodated in the space. And therefore the dhuma doesn't it doesn't touch the space, because it's a creation. Creation doesn't affect the source. That is what we mean. Creation doesn't affect the source. The same Siddhantam, the thinking doesn't affect the Atma, because the relationship is, one is Maya Srishti, thinking is a creation and being is the source. So the creation doesn't affect the source. The thinking doesn't affect the self. The Siddhantam is the same. The Maya Srishti doesn't affect the source. Or you say the error doesn't affect the fact. It's all the same. The appearance, the language may change. The appearance doesn't affect the reality. Perception doesn't affect, distortion doesn't affect the actuality. Error doesn't affect the fact. Appearance doesn't affect the reality. Creation doesn't affect the source. When I say creation doesn't affect the source, everybody makes an uproar. What are you talking, Swamiji? You are accepting creation? What are you talking? Creation means really appearance. Creation means an error. Creation means perception. Creation means the false. Why are you so worried? All the academicians say, oh my God, you accept creation. Why? I am explaining my words. When I am able to explain my language, my words, why should you have a problem? Why should you have a problem? When I am able to, I may use any language. It means only perception. Thinking doesn't affect the being means the error doesn't affect the fact. Also means the appearance doesn't affect the reality. Also means the creation doesn't affect the source. What is the problem? Just as the smoke doesn't affect the space. It doesn't eclipse it doesn't cover the space. The fire can't burn space. Water cannot drown space. The earth cannot cut space. These are the engines of destruction, ji. We can't think of any other engine of destruction of the physical. The air can blow off a person. It can't blow off the space. Fire can't burn the space down. Water cannot drown the space. The swords cannot cut the space. Why? Because for all the four elements, the source, the topical source is that it is the source of the four. In this matter also Shruti is Pramana. Because in the context of unfolding the Paramakaranam means the fundamental source. It talks about the space. Space as the empirical Karanam for the immediate Upadanam for the rest of the four elements is mentioned only in the Shruti. Just as the Dhuma cannot affect space, similarly Punya Papa do not affect the self. You have to see the reason there. The reason is the Srishti cannot affect the source. That is what is called understanding. When you see the reason, when you have seen the statement. When you understand the reason, you have understood the statement. Just as the thoughts are born of you, they don't affect your being, they don't negate your being. In fact, the very creation of the thoughts presupposes the presence. The sustaining of the thoughts presupposes the presence of the being. In this manner, the creation doesn't affect the source. That is the Vedanta Siddhantam. Maya Srishti doesn't affect the source. Are there many Srishtis? No, there is only one Srishti which is always Maya Srishti. Only Maya Srishti is called Srishti. If it is not Maya Srishti, then it is not Srishti. And every Srishti is called. What does Maya Srishti? A Srishti is that, Maya Srishti is that which doesn't bring about any change in the source. But that's all my definition of Maya Srishti. And all the examples that the Shruti gives also substantiate what I say. The Shruti gives the examples of pot and clay. Pot is Maya Srishti, doesn't affect clay. Metal and instruments. Instruments do not affect the metal. They don't change the metal. The ornaments do not affect gold. The gold remains. It's also Maya Srishti. The cloth doesn't affect the nature of the cotton. Cotton remains. And therefore, you can't be free from punya and papa because the punya is immeasurable, past punya. The past, the time is immeasurable, ji. Because bhranti janya it is. The sense of the past is immeasurable. And the punya that I might have accrued is immeasurable. The papa I might have accrued is also immeasurable. And how do you handle the immeasurable, ji? Even out of the immeasurable, thoda bahut aa jata hai, becomes prarabdha, you exhaust a bit. It is still immeasurable. It's amazing, ji. That only shows it is bhranti. Even if a little punya you exhaust, even if you little papa you exhaust, it is still immeasurable. So you haven't really achieved much. Therefore, life should not be lived to exhaust punya or exhaust papa. Life should be lived to understand the truth. Let the punya exhaust itself. Let the papa exhaust itself. In fact, you can only disprove it. You can't exhaust time, ji. You can only disprove time boundness. Therefore, this theory of exhausting is also has its flaw. oh, I am exhausting my papa, my punya, my prarabdha, etc. Even prarabdha you may exhaust, this life's prarabdha you may exhaust. When you die, you have exhausted the entire life's prarabdha, but another bit of prarabdha will come for the next life. Therefore, there is no substitute for understanding the truth. There is no substitute. Therefore, don't waste time exhausting punya or creating more punya. Because the immeasurable plus little more punya is still immeasurable. The immeasurable minus a little punya is also still be immeasurable. So this immeasurable does not go away. And it always remains immeasurable. Even after so much of tapasya, my punya, my past punya is immeasurable, my past papa is immeasurable. It can never be exhausted, because the immeasurable can never be exhausted, but it can be disproved. Sansara sagaram cannot be crossed, it can be disproved. Sansara sagaram can only be, you can't dry up sansara. Agastya swallowed the sansara sagaram, it is said. You know, Agastya swallowed water. It should be understood, he did not really swallow the real water. Sansara samudram he swallowed means he disproved it. But in the folklore they always say Agastya drank an ocean. If there are South Indians who are exposed to some of the Agastya's stories, you should know Agastya swallowed the entire ocean. Meaning sansara sagaram cannot be, you can't swim across sansara sagaram because it is immeasurable. These oceans are measurable. Indian Ocean is measurable, ji. Arabian Sea is measurable, I hope. Bay of Bengal also is measurable. What is that ocean? Pacific is measurable. The whole earth is measurable. But when it comes to the creation, it is immeasurable. As creation, it is immeasurable. Space is immeasurable. So if sansara sagaram also is immeasurable, the sense of limitation is immeasurable. It is immeasurable. You can't say this is limitation. 2 inches is limitation, 5 feet is limitation, 6 feet is limitation, 7 feet is limitation. Can you say like that? It's very difficult to be understood correctly. In life, man has no answer. If he doesn't want the spiritual answer, he can just survive, live, enjoy and die. And again reborn and again go. He can go on repeating life after life. But that's not the answer. If he is mentally ready to go through sukham now, dukkham now, sukham now, dukkham now, struggle now, then that is not a substitute for the answer. Struggle is not a substitute for freedom from struggle, ji. Or even mental readiness to go through struggle is not a substitute for freedom from the struggle. The refusal to know the truth is not a substitute for knowing the truth. There is no substitute for knowing the truth. There is no substitute. And therefore, don't waste time exhausting punya, exhausting papa. Don't play with punya papa. And don't play with superstitions. It's nothing. Just look at your existence. Looking at your existence is spirituality. Looking at the feeling of your existence, the felt existence, is spirituality. Don't objectify thoughts and meditate on those thoughts. That's nothing. Your existence is different from your thoughts. in this manner. Nahi akashasya dhumena drishyamana. Even though I see the dhuma in the space, but there is no contact between dhuma and space. There is no sanyoga, there is no contact, sparsha nahi hai. This is called asparsha yoga. The creation has no touch with the truth. The snake doesn't touch the rope. Our sansara doesn't touch our being. Our sansara doesn't touch our being. This is called Vedanta. And therefore, please, spend time looking at your being. It doesn't matter. Even if you look at your existence once in a blue moon, it is still a welcome blue moon. Yes, it is still a success. Because in the name of spirituality, even for 1 minute, if you are actually spiritual, that's a great thing. Man lives his entire life thinking that he is being spiritual, but actually is not spiritual. Doing something in the name of spirituality. Doing something in the name of spirituality. Like Vedantis say something in the name of Vedanta, but not Vedanta. Actual Vedanta, it's very clear, ji? Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.